The iPhone 16 Pro Max has been out for a few months now, and in this video, I'm comparing the 16 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max. We'll break down everything important, including the new camera control button, the updated processor, the slightly larger screen, and longer battery life. Plus, I'll show you some real-world camera tests and side-by-side comparisons. My goal is to help you decide, is it worth upgrading? Now, both of these devices have a lot of similarities, which I won't focus on. This video is about the differences. Now, let's start right away with the most noticeable difference, the sexy new camera control button. This is really the only major difference between the two devices. The way I see it, there are three distinct reasons why the camera control button may be worth the upgrade. Number one, picking up the camera as soon as possible to take pictures so you don't miss anything. Number two, the convenience of having the camera control button to adjust camera features instead of relying on the touchscreen. And number three, taking advantage of Apple's visual intelligence features. There are several ways to get into the phone and start taking pictures. The first of which is just swiping up on the home screen and tapping the camera icon. I use this quite frequently as it's the natural way to get into your phone. The second way is to use the camera button on the bottom right of the lock screen, which is there by default unless you removed it. However, this can be difficult if your thumb isn't in the perfect position and you find yourself frantically tapping on the phone because you don't want to miss the cutest thing that your kid's doing that will never happen again. Now, this is my default way of getting into the phone as soon as possible, or it was prior to the 16 Pro Max. And then there's the third option, which I always forget about, which is swiping your finger on the screen from right to left, which slides open the camera as well. Now, the new camera control feature gives you a physical button so that you can get right into the camera with your finger on the trigger and start snapping pics immediately. Now, this does come with a caveat. Caveat? That sounds weird. Which is, you likely already have your go-to method to get into the camera, so you're going to have to drop that habit and retrain yourself to use the camera control button. And there will be a learning curve. So if this is the one feature that causes you to buy the device, then you really should commit to practicing and getting good at it so you can really get in there and take pictures as soon as possible. Now, this did take some getting used to, but if you master the technique, it's really a great solution to take pictures as soon as possible so you don't miss anything. The second aspect of the camera control button is being able to access the controls on the camera without having to touch the screen. This also takes some getting used to, as you can soft press the button to adjust the settings, double soft press to click through options, hard press to take a picture, and hard press and hold to shoot video. Now, I personally felt that using the zoom feature from the camera control button wasn't the best way to go. It's fine if you're zooming in or out for a shot, but if you prefer a quicker option or the ability to slow zoom in and out while you're shooting a video, I much prefer the on-screen dial feature. Now, the third feature exclusive to the camera control button is the ability to use visual intelligence. Visual intelligence basically gives you the ability to use the device's camera to identify objects and text that the camera sees. If you press the Ask button, it'll use ChatGPT to send you relevant information about what's on the screen. And if you use the Search button, it essentially uses Google Lens to search for the subject directly from your camera. Now, I had already been using these features by using the ChatGPT app and the Google Photos app respectively. But this does save some extra steps, and you don't need to actually take a picture first in order to get answers. And isn't that really what iPhones are great for, saving you time? I decided to take some photos and videos from both devices, but since the cameras are so similar, I decided not to spend too much time on this one. The 15 Pro Max and the 16 Pro Max cameras are almost identical, except for the fact that the 16 Pro Max adds a 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera to match the megapixels of the main camera, while the 15 Pro Max only has a 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens. The only other difference is improved low-light performance, which you may not even notice. You can see some minor differences in the side-by-side comparisons, but in my opinion, it's nothing to write home about. After taking a number of photos, portraits, selfies, videos, cinematic videos, wide-angle shots, macros, and even some low-light shots, I feel like the real-life testing is indicative of the specs. The cameras are so similar that it's not really worth upgrading just for that reason. Unless you're a pro photographer that uses the iPhone professionally, I don't think it's enough to justify the switch. So, one of the most important changes is the battery life. Now, this may not stand out as a sexy new feature, but for many people, this could be the most important one. It's your battery. You need it. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is said to have up to 29 hours of video playback. The iPhone 16 Pro Max claims to have up to 33 hours of video playback. That extra 4 hours of battery life is a great metric to go by because even if you're not playing back video, that means it'll last even longer, and that's extra time for you to use your device before you have to charge it. I've been using the 16 Pro Max for some time now, and I definitely notice the extended battery life in real-world situations. And let's face it, battery life is important. And for some, this could be the sole reason to upgrade. Now let's talk about the design and build. These phones are so similar in this respect. The screen on the 16 Pro Max is slightly larger. I honestly forgot that it was even larger until I started doing this video and looked at the specs again. I was using both phones side by side, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is larger. I love a huge screen, but really it's barely noticeable. The same goes with the thinner bezels, which is barely worth mentioning. The 16 Pro Max allegedly features a next-generation ceramic shield claiming to be twice as tough as the previous model. Now, not a year goes by where my new iPhone doesn't get a little scratch somewhere on the screen, and it's really disappointing. So despite these claims of a tougher, more durable screen, I'm always skeptical about these things. Maybe it's just my opinion, but that's the way I feel. And of course, there's the color options. In Desert Titanium, I actually preferred the natural look on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, but I decided to just go for the defining color of the new model. And, it's fine. I'm going to wear a case anyway. Now, the last category is performance. Every year, Apple upgrades their chip. This year's no different with the A18, and it's an incremental upgrade. It's faster, it's more efficient. Did I notice it? No, not at all. But it's a thing, so I figured I'd mention it. And lastly, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is compatible with Wi-Fi 7, as where the 15 Pro Max is only compatible with Wi-Fi 6E. But does anyone really even have Wi-Fi 6E? Certainly not Wi-Fi 7, right? Upgrade to the 16 Pro Max if you want the camera button to quickly access your camera with the ability to control the camera using a physical button. You value Apple's visual intelligence to quickly get info from what your camera sees. Battery life is extremely important to you, or you really love Desert Titanium! If not, just stick with the 15 Pro Max. It's an amazing device. If this video helped your decision, or if you just enjoyed it, please give me a like. And for more tech comparisons and tech reviews, please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Which phone are you using, and are you upgrading? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.